Hi, he's Owen Dell.
And he's Billy Goodnick. We're the Garden Wise guys.
And today we're going to show you how to create beautiful, sustainable, functional gardens that not only save you water, but also save you money.
Hey, we're up here in Rattlesnake Canyon. We're going to talk to you today about California native plants. What is a California native plant? It's simply a plant that evolved in place and was here before Europeans came and started putting in non-native plants.
Exactly.
Right?
Now, just because a plant is originally from California doesn't necessarily mean that you want it in your garden in Santa Barbara. Weather conditions are different. So come with us to the Botanic Garden. We'll help demystify the topic of California native plants.
Citizens of Santa Barbara, I have come here to talk to you today about California native plants. We are using too much water, too many pesticides, too many herbicides, and we're doing too much maintenance in our gardens. The answer is California native plants, and I'm going to stay in this tree until every citizen plants a California native plant.
Oh, okay, folks. Nothing to watch here. I got this under control. This isn't the first time.
I'm working on a manifesto.
Owen, hey,
Billy.
up the tree.
Yeah, I'm kind of busy right now. What are you doing here?
I just checked with our insurance guy. You got to come down. It's just, yeah, no, you're just up too high. We're just not covered for that.
Look, I got things to do. Okay?
I know.
Citizens.
Owen,
What?
how about we go up to the Botanic Garden? You love it up there. You love it at the Botanic Garden. We'll get some talk points, talk to some people there. We'll flesh out the manifesto. What do you think?
It's okay, but I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
I promised him I'd.
Look what I have.
Prunus ilicifolia?
Yeah,
Oh my God,
you know
that's
how you
so
like this.
beautiful.
Come on.
All right, well, here, you got to help me out of this
Okay.
darn
Oh,
tree.
here. No,
Yeah.
my pleasure.
Yeah. Look, Billy, I don't want to feel better, okay? I could be up in the tree working on my manifesto. This is important.
I know this is really important, but you know how much better you feel when you're at the Botanic Garden? It's calming. Hey, Carol.
Yes.
Owen's kind of off on a little bit of a rant here. He's just convinced nobody's using native plants. Maybe you can give him a little pep talk, let him know what's going on here.
I would be happy to.
Hey, Owen, I'm going to make a quick call to your aromatherapist, see if we can get that mix that you like. You know,
Aromatherapist.
Yeah, settle you down a little.
Thanks.
Hi, Owen.
Hi, Carol.
You seem to be upset. What's going on?
You know how long I've worked with native plants?
I do.
And you know how much I love them.
I
I
do.
feel like nobody's paying any attention to us.
Actually, things are changing. People are appreciating the value of natives for their beauty, habitat value, fragrance, utility, water conservation, all of those things and many more are they're resonating with people in Santa Barbara and throughout California. So why don't we talk about some of these terrific native plants?
I'd love to. I was
Okay.
looking at this penstemon.
This is Penstemon Margarita Bach. One of the best things about it, besides the fact that it just blooms and blooms and blooms, is that it's drought tolerant, grows in full hot blazing sun, and it's a magnet for hummingbirds.
What's that?
This is an introduction from the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden. We actually selected and named this verbena. It blooms almost all year round. You know, once in a while you might want to prune it back to stimulate some new growth, but it attracts butterflies, it's fragrant, flowers a lot, drought tolerant.
Owen Dell,
Yeah.
Dexter. I was on your show, you know. I have
Dexter!
the water in.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I've been watching your show,
yeah?
and I'm learning a lot. So I know before I buy a plant, it's not just about the flowers. I need plants that do stuff. So I got a list of plants here. I need a hedge because I got this neighbor. You know, I don't necessarily. Anyway, I'm going to look up some plants, and I think I need a lilac. I think that's going to be real pretty in my garden.
If you wanted a California lilac, that would be great. But if you want the lilacs that grow in, you know, back in the Midwest,
Yeah,
Northeast,
they're pretty.
like Michigan,
Yeah.
that would be fine back there. But I think we got a better plant for you here.
Not going to grow
Dexter.
there. Okay, well, show me
Come
what
here.
I need.
So this is lemonade berry.
Sounds delicious.
This is an evergreen shrub that can also be used as a small tree.
Oh,
But
cool.
believe it or not, this can be turned into a wonderful clipped formal hedge. It will get to be as much as 10 or even 12 feet tall if you want.
cool. So
maybe
that-
even 15. But the beauty of it is that you can prune it into a formal hedge if you like.
Well, that's great. So it doesn't just have to be a big, like,
It doesn't have
natural
to be. No.
looking-
And in fact, this hedge here was planted over 60 years ago, so that tells you how long-lived this can
and
be.
doesn't use a lot of water?
No, it's
No
very
pests?
no. It's very drought tolerant, and all it needs is occasionally to be pruned to retain this shape.
I'm getting 20 of them. I got this like really hot patio, so I need a shade tree. So I was, again, you know, I'm looking stuff up. So Siberian elm, it's just Siberia, right?
It's an attractive tree, but I really don't recommend it for our area.
Okay, what you got?
Well, right here we've got a couple of possibilities. We've got this very beautiful gray pine. This grows in foothill woodland and makes a really nice light shade, casts light
that's
shade
good.
so that you
Okay.
can actually grow things underneath it.
What's this one?
This is sometimes called fernleaf ironwood or Santa Cruz Island ironwood.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah,
mean,
what
kind
about
of-
an oak tree? We don't have any in the nursery right now, but we have coast live oaks on occasion.
Well, where am I going to see one?
Well, how about right over our heads?
Wow, okay. Well,
If
that's
you really
one.
want a big, statuesque, evergreen tree that casts wonderful shade and provides terrific habitat for wildlife, it's hard to beat our coast live oak.
Well, great, load me up. Okay, I'm going to get 3 of those. Okay, I need a slope cover. The water comes down. I don't want it coming through the living room. It just takes too long to clean
I
up.
wouldn't want that either.
So I guess I got it wrong. I was looking at Algerian ivy,
Ooh,
but
bad news.
Okay, what you got?
Invasive plant. You don't want to plant that.
Yeah.
Well, how about ceanothus?
Ceanothus, I've heard of that. What does it
That
look
is
like?
a California specialty. There are
Cool.
tons of different kinds of ceanothus, and we've got 3 right here that you might want to be considering. This one, you can see how far this spreads just in a gallon can. This is Ceanothus hirstiorum,
Oh,
or
it's got
Hearst
them
ceanothus.
little crinkly leaves.
Grows up there by Hearst Castle. If you want something with a little bit rounder leaf and a different texture, this is maritime
Oh, that's
ceanothus.
pretty. And these all flower, right?
They all flower.
Wintertime?
They both have blue or purplish blue flowers.
This is beautiful.
And this is a really unusual California native. This is a variegated form of Carmel creeper.
It's got like different colors in the leaf.
And you know, that's what is referred to as variegation, or
Variegation.
variegated foliage. This is Ceanothus Diamond Heights. And this would be appropriate to use in a spot where you get a little bit of protection from the hot afternoon sun.
I got my slope cover figured out.
There you go.
We're just cooking here. Okay, so Mrs. Dexter, she said entryway, it's got to be really nice. So it's one of them, what they call perennial border, going down the side of the walkway. So I need just like flowers and stuff. I'm looking.
Lots of color.
Yeah, snapdragons, petunias.
Well, I think we got
Okay.
some other plants that might fit the bill, okay?
Give me some natives. That's what we're here for.
Well, how about some of our beautiful monkey flower? Oranges, reds, they even come in yellows and pinks and white,
Sold.
okay? What about this bright yellow? This is called Canyon Sunflower.
So what's this white one? That's pretty.
That's common yarrow, which is really nice in perennial borders, good for cut flowers, and also attracts beneficial
Oh,
insects.
great. Okay, so I'm going to get all these, all the other stuff you mentioned, and just go pay my bill.
Pay your bill in the shop, and
Okay.
let me give you a membership application so you
Okay.
can support the Botanic Garden.
I'll do that.
A list of classes that we offer here so you can learn more.
Okay.
And this really terrific book, California Native Plants for the Garden, can tell you all you need to know about how to take care of these once you
Well,
get home.
great. I'm all set up. Okay.
Yeah, you are.
Well, I'm going to go.
You're good to go.
Hey, Dexter, how you doing?
It's been great.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Good to see you, man.
Okay.
And you're back,
Hey.
and I'm going to give you a map to the Botanic Garden.
Oh, nice.
So that you-
I got to go find Billy, and I thought maybe we could walk around. Is there any place that you think would be... we did good with Dexter, but there's this stereotype that California native plants have to be in a California native-looking garden.
Yeah, kind of wild and woolly.
But it doesn't have to be that way, right? I mean, we could put natives in just about anything.
Sure. I mean, Carol mentioned what is it? There's supposed to be a Japanese garden around
Yeah,
here
I
somewhere.
think it's...
Where is it?
Oh,
Oh, we're here.
yeah.
Let's go.
What's that water? Item 9 manifesto, California native plants shall not just be used in naturalistic ways.
Okay, and this is a perfect example. Somebody's captured the essence of a Japanese garden using grasses, ferns, conifers, beautiful little ground covers, and these are all California native plants that really capture the essence of what a Japanese garden would look like. So this is a job well done.
Okay, check that off. Manifesto point number 47, exploit the many beautiful foliage colors of California native plants.
And that's exactly what we have here. We have silvery grasses, we have gray-green manzanita, and other subshrubs that run through this area. A really nice effect you get from this is when there's a full moon and the light bounces off of these. It just becomes a stunning color composition.
Manifesto point number 784, you don't have to give up lawn to have California native plants.
Well, that's true. We're sitting here on a lawn that's made from native California sedge. It doesn't grow very high, so it needs little or no mowing. That's a big plus because you don't have lawnmowers belching out all that pollution. Doesn't take any extra fertilizer, requires less water. I mean, you really can't do much better than that.
Manifesto point 103.3.7, beta version. Even gardeners with moist and shady places shall not turn their backs on California native plants.
Well, you know, that's a great point. California has such a diverse climate from alpine mountain tops down to the deserts and the ocean. We've also got 6,000 different species of plant, so there will always be a right California plant for the right place. And this is a great example. We're right here in the middle of Santa Barbara, but we have all these plants that look like we might be up in a mountain glen somewhere. So no matter what kind of style you're trying to create, there's some California plants out there for you. So, how's your manifesto?
Well, I'm about out of points here, you know. Hey, listen, I'm really glad we came. I feel so much better. I can see that people are using native plants more and more, and they should be. Why? Because they save water, they're easy to care for, they don't need as much fertilizer, they attract wildlife, they're versatile. There's a native plant for almost every situation, even lawns and wet places. It's incredible how useful and beautiful California native plants are.
So if you want to learn more about California native plants, the Santa Barbara Botanic Garden is the perfect place to come. Between their classes, nurseries, bookstore, and all the other events that they have up here, you can get really comfortable working with native plants and use them with great confidence in your own garden. So we invite you back up. For more information on the Botanic Garden, visit sbbg.org.
You know, Santa Barbara has a really wide variety of microclimates.
That's right, cool and foggy down at the beach, hot and dry back up here in the foothills.
And what that means for you as a gardener is that you have to be careful to pick plants that are suitable for your microclimate.
Exactly. We're going to take you on a tour of different neighborhoods and help you match the right plants to your specific area. Stay tuned.
We're here at Stevens Park in the San Roque area. This is a perfect example of a riparian woodland environment, which is basically down where the creeks run through the canyons. Cold air moves into here. It's a little cooler than the foothills above it, and it's a particular kind of environment. What you're looking at here is the planting that was done by the Creeks Division of the City of Santa Barbara, and it's got some really neat plants. This beautiful goldenrod, hummingbird sage, giant ryegrass. If you happen to live adjacent to a wild area, these are perfect plants for you. Okay, we're here at the second part of the planting at Stevens Park, and this is a really nice mixture of native perennials and smaller shrubs. It's the kind of thing that you might do around your house. You can have a native border and use far fewer resources than you'd have to if you were using conventional plants. One of the things that strikes me here is these plants have been allowed to grow into the space. They have room to grow. They don't need to really be cut back. About the only real maintenance you need to do is take back the flowers every year. We call it deadheading. Once they're done blooming, just take them back to the main plant. That's about it.
Hi, we're at the Montecito Water District Demonstration Garden, and we're much further back from the coast now. We're in the foothills, and this tends to be a drier area. The fog clears earlier in the summertime, gets a little bit less rainfall because we're further off the ocean. So the plants here and the plants, if your garden, say, is further up into the foothills, these are more appropriate plants for you. Right behind me is a really nice form of buckwheat. This one's called St. Catherine's Lace, and as you can see, it's a massive shrub. A lot of people look at this and they say, well, it's brown. Well, California is brown, and California is supposed to be brown in certain areas at this time of the year. So to some degree, this is more of an authentic type of plant for our gardens, and it's something that we can learn to embrace. This is called Cercis occidentalis, or western redbud. Tends to be shrubby, a lot of multiple trunks from the base, but it can also be pruned into a very nice tree. I think its nicest feature during the growth season are these beautiful sort of kidney-shaped leaves, which gives it a real character and personality. But after it drops all its leaves in the wintertime and before it comes back into leaf, it's got beautiful small pink flowers. It's in the sweet pea family, so it gets these little pods. You can find a home for this in just about any garden in the Santa Barbara area. This plant, Matilaha poppy, if the name rings a bell, it's from the backcountry near Ojai, the Matilaha Canyon area, and it's just a beautiful, really vigorous perennial, which means it's a soft-tissued plant. It's not actually a shrub or a tree, but it achieves this size every year. This is a plant that you can knock all the way to the ground and let it completely restore itself. How can you pass up this flower? It looks like a sunny-side-up egg. It's these beautiful crepe-like petals and the beautiful central area here with the yellow on it. Again, a plant that needs zero additional water once it's established. That means in a year or two to get it started with water, and after that you can cut it off completely. So great plant if you have a back corner that you want to fill up, or you have a really big flower bed and can afford to have something like this in here. Manzanita is a fabulous plant and is native not only to our foothills but goes all the way up the coast into Oregon. There's a lot of different species of it and a lot of varieties of it. But this one, again, you can see is a nice full-size shrub. Has beautiful leaves, and what I really like the most about it is that throughout the year you have this great contrast of these dark sort of reddish mahogany branches that give it a great character. This plant also grows as a very low ground cover as well as a small tree. So Manzanita or Arctostaphylos is a very versatile plant and has a wonderful character all year long.
We're here at the Mesa Creek Restoration, which is down at the end of Las Positas Road on Cliff Drive near Arroyo Burro Beach, and sometimes called Hendry's Beach. This is a really cool project. It uses all native plants in a restorative way. What they did here was actually what we call daylighting a creek, which means taking it out of a concrete pipe that had been installed in 1968, opening it up and creating a natural waterway. This is good for the fish, it's good for the ocean, and it's really great for native plants. They've done a bang-up job here with tons of coastal natives. Again, we're right near the ocean, so the temperatures are cooler. It's going to be foggier than it is inland, so you've got a very particular set of plants here. This is probably one of the best restorations anywhere in the area. You really should come down and see this because you can see a huge diversity of plants in a really beautiful setting.
I'm at the Goleta Water District, and this is a great demonstration garden for a lot of plants as well as California native plants. We're not quite on the coast, we're not back in the dry foothills, so this is kind of an average type of situation in terms of climate, and it's probably where you can have the most diversity or selection of California native plants. I'm standing under the canopy of an island oak, a great alternative to the coast live oak that you usually see in our area. Bigger leaf, and it tends to be more narrow, vertical, and upright. So wonderful selection and would go in just about any residential garden. This beautiful silvery grass is called Lamus Canyon Prince. It's a form of ryegrass. You might have ryegrass in your lawn, very high water using. This stuff needs very little water, again, once it's established. Give it a little bit to get it started. Fills in beautifully. Tend to give it a large area where it can scramble around. Also a great slope cover. I didn't think we were going to see these flowers shooting here at the end of summer, but this is a plant called blue-eyed grass. Somebody's very confused because this isn't a grass at all. It's actually related to the iris, but it has this delicate, beautiful little blue flower. This is a plant that can survive on little or no supplemental water. So when it's all done flowering, there's tiny little seeds you can shake out into your hand, spread through the garden, and it just colonizes as it goes. For more information and more plants, visit our website at sbwater.org.
Well, now we're going to show you how to plant a native plant, and it's a little bit different from planting a regular plant, so you really need to stick around for this.
Oh boy, this is going to be fun.
We're up here on the Mesa, which, as you probably know, is a very particular microclimate in Santa Barbara. Here we are at late summer, and it might be hot and sunny in other neighborhoods, and here it's gray, foggy, and cool. It's what gives the Mesa its particular character. What it means in terms of landscaping is that you have to pick plants, whether they're native or otherwise, that are adapted to this microclimate.
This is a garden that uses native plants in more of a contemporary way, and we're going to show you how to create a garden like this for your own home.
Step number one in any landscape design is a thing that we landscape architects call site analysis, which is just a fancy term for looking around and seeing what's here. You look at a number of things. First of all, what kind of site is this? This happens to be a west-facing slope, which means it's going to get afternoon sun. It's warmer than an east-facing slope that gets morning sun, and so it's going to have particular growing conditions for plants. You also want to look at the soil, by the way, and see whether it's loamy, sandy, clay, rocky, whether it has good drainage or not. This will also dictate the kind of plantings that you use. What are we going to do with this slope? Are we going to just leave it a slope, or are we going to terrace it, as they've done here, and create some level areas? We also want to look at the overall surroundings, what other vegetation is in the area, what does the house look like so that our planting fits the architecture. We're learning about the site, and then we move on to making decisions about what to do.
So we know what the site is all about. How do we use that information? We apply it to what it is that we want to be able to do in this landscape. In this case, there's a front terrace that allows us to move around the property, stairway to get people from the street up here. There's even a wonderful little vegetable garden here, but this would not be successful on a slope. It needs to be leveled off. So how do we get this level? Well, there's a pretty big drop off here, so you might need a civil engineer. You might even need building permits. But getting all those functional aspects together is really the key before we start talking about decorating and making it all beautiful.
The next step is to figure out how this is all going to look, because nobody wants an ugly landscape. What's really beautiful here is the harmonizing colors of the brown, the sandstone, the flowers that are kind of in the same color range, and then a contrast with different tones of greens and grays. You also want to think about the texture of the plants, contrasting finer textured and coarser textured things. And then you want to repeat plants so that they aren't used in a kind of one of each way. You're actually repeating the plants over and over again in an area and throughout the landscape in drifts so that it looks like a real planned environment.
You know, it wouldn't be a Garden Wise Guys show if we didn't talk about sustainability. And there's a lot going on here. Native sandstone, this is Santa Barbara stuff. Here it's used in a few different ways. A stairway, and you can also use sandstone as a dry stack wall, which requires nothing other than being able to stack the stone up and keep it in place. On top of that, we've got what looks like recycled green waste here to use as a mulch, which not only improves the soil, but also retains the water. And the other thing about native plants is they don't require any fertilization. We're not using all those petrochemicals that go into most commercial fertilizers. So there's a lot to be gained by approaching your landscape this way.
You know, there's a myth about native plants, which is that they don't need any water, and that's not necessarily true. It is true that a California native from a dry part of the state is going to be adapted to our weather conditions, and so in theory, it's not going to need any supplemental watering. But first of all, to get the plants established, you obviously need to do some extra watering. And even once they are established, it's a good idea in a garden setting to give them some water once in a while so they don't look completely dried up. Because remember that native plants go dormant in the wild, and we don't necessarily want that in our gardens. The best way to irrigate a native planting is with a drip system like this. This is the new way to do it with the emitters actually molded into the drip line itself. This is put down in a grid so that there's an emitter every foot to 18 inches, and that wets the entire soil profile every time that the system comes on. But there's one trick with native plants, which is that you don't want to water right at the base of the plant. So if you had an emitter right where the stem comes out of the ground, it's a good way to kill a native plant because they get diseases from having wet soil right around the base. So keep the emitters away from the plant and make sure you have as many as possible throughout the rest of the area. The drip tubing goes under the mulch, so once you put it in and mulch over it, you never see it again. That's pretty much it.
Before you start thinking about floral color, and this is a stunning shade of pink, think about the fact that plants aren't always in bloom every day of the year. So if you can create an interesting composition by playing with the form of the plant, different colors of foliage, how a plant lays down or spills, you can create something interesting whether it ever flowers or not. In front of me, these buckwheat plants here, even when they're not in flower, have a very interesting foliage. And even down here along the edge at the curb, there's almost a perennial garden sort of look using the soft gray of the Artemisia. So to get to a final planting plan, there's a few steps that you have to take. I would get a list of all of the candidate plants that you know have the greatest chance of thriving on your property. Make sure you've got all the site conditions taken into consideration, soil, etc. Once you have that list, get to know the plant well enough that you really know all of its visual characteristics. You can even look at pictures in magazines, and even though they're not using California native plants, try to extract from that what's going on there. Then find the plants that help you to complete that. If you do that, you'll end up with a beautiful garden, and your job is to substitute the California native plants for that vision that you've got off the paper. Notice the bag of planter mix that isn't here. Notice the fertilizer tablets that aren't here. This plant is just going in the ground with the soil that came out of the container and the soil that's here in the ground. That's very important. Most California plants grow in an area where there's not a lot of extra nutrient, so we don't really have to do much for them. We just got to get them in the ground, get them off to a good start. So I'm going to dig a little hole here. What I like to do is set the plant down and kind of mark the boundaries of the circle, how far it's going to go. So we'll get the mulch out of the way. We're going to get the hole nice and cleared out. And we've ended up with a nice hole here. Important thing, I take my hands and I hold them on either side of the container so that when I turn the plant over, hopefully you give it a little tap, falls out nicely. Another important thing to do is to release these roots from the root ball so that they have a chance to go out. If I were to just put this plant in the ground with different soil around it, there's a chance that these roots just kind of stay here and start circling around. So we're just going to lightly scratch the soil to release. I'm going to set the plant in the ground, and an easy way to check the altitude, how high it's going to sit in the hole, is to just lay the shovel down horizontally, and it looks like I'm about a ½ an inch high here. So I'm going to take a little bit of soil out. I want the top of the plant container to sit about a ¼ of an inch above the surrounding soil. So I'm taking out just a tiny bit more. Now I'm just going to add probably about 1/3 of the soil so far around here. And then I'll just take the back of the shovel and gently compact the soil, not so tight that the water's not going to settle in, but enough that it's not going to, that the soil isn't going to settle down completely later. Continue adding some soil, a little bit more compaction, and now I'm going to top it off. So you can see right here, here's the top of the old root ball, here's the surface of the soil. This is just about perfect. For the first watering, a slow, deep soak. You might want to build a little bit of a basin around it so the water doesn't run off. It's especially important if you're working on a slope. Keep the water from washing away. But after the plant has had its first deep watering, depending on what kind of irrigation you're using, you may or may not keep this basin around here. It's actually more danger, because if this caves in or starts eroding in, you might end up burying the crown of the plant. So this is ready for a nice, slow, deep soak. When we're done with that, we'll get some fresh mulch, cover over it, making sure the mulch doesn't touch the trunk. Okay, you never want to have mulch in contact with the woody stems of the plant, and we're good to go. So whether you're designing a new garden, changing an existing garden, whether you're working with native plants or not, there's a process that's involved, and you benefit by following the steps that we've laid out for you. Everything from site analysis through thinking about functionality, how the plants are going to work, and then finally how they're going to look. Follow the process and you'll end up with a much better product.
So what are you going to get out of a California native garden? Well, a lot of things. First of all, it's going to be drought tolerant because natives are adapted to our climate. So you're going to save money on water. You're going to help the environment in any number of ways. Native plants are very, very sustainable. They attract native insects. They're really interesting to live with. They're unusual, they're different, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to have a lot of fun with it. Who knows, you could be the first one on your block to have a native garden. Give it a try.
Hey, thanks for tuning in. We hope we've piqued your interest in California native plants.
Now remember, natives are tough plants and they don't need a lot of babying. Put them in the fall, water them to get them established, and wean them off that water as soon as you can. And don't go killing them with fertilizers. They don't need it.
Exactly. So thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
So long.
Okay, so I got to... Yeah, I'm there. I'm all over that. How much you want, I can crank it up, honey. Hi, we're here swatting flies in Rattlesnake Canyon and cooling our pits.
Leaving the water running while brushing your teeth wastes 2 gallons of water. For more information on how to conserve water, log on to www.sbwater.org. That's sbwater.org.